Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel, and I'm joined by Superfeng99. How's it going?
Pretty good, yeah. I'm ready to talk about this deck and your
Yeah,
deck as well, because very interesting.
we just finished playing Fate of the Vale, which is the last scenario of Feast of Hemlock Vale. We're not going to talk about the campaign specifically. Well, we kind of will, but not what happened per se, because we want you to go watch the videos. But we're here to do a bit of a deck retrospective and talk about what worked, what didn't, what were some discoveries we had, and comment on our each other's decks a bit, what we kind of learned watching each other play, because that's half the fun of this game. I think is learning from each other too. So um, I'm going to quickly just show what the decks look like on ArkhamDB in case you're interested. If you want to kind of look at a holistic thing, and then we've highlighted some things to talk about here over in TTS. So you played George. Do you have any like just big overall thoughts as we're looking at the whole thing on ArkhamDB?
Overall, I think that George is very, very good. He is he. I can George. Survivors are weird, but automatically you have a base 4 intellect, so he is like Will York, right? Will York is a survivor. He does some weird stuff, but he's already a very good fighter at doing what he needs to do.
Mhm.
George is the same. Again, yes, you're doing very weird things, but there is so much clue potential in George's card pool that there's a lot of power in George, and I am very impressed.
Yeah, me too. You could kind of just do anything. When I played him
Yeah.
before, I felt the same way. But other than Gifted Nodens, I think I saw kind of some different things, different choices. You had many more skills than I ended up playing.
hmm
So we'll talk about that pile of skills as well. You also did, of course, a forced learning deck, so you have 50 cards
Yes.
in total. All right.
Yes, I think forced learning is obviously it's very interesting with George, and I think that it really powers him up. Just being able to have that extra discard during the upkeep phase to trigger his ability again, basically, is enormous. It also lets you churn through your deck. Obviously, your deck size is bigger, but because you're churning through your deck, you're able to take advantage of the survivor recursion because there's extra things in your discard pile, basically.
That's
Gift
right.
of Nodens really benefits that because then you can discard the things off of hand size and then commit them again from Gift of Nodens without even having to ever touching them. So
Good card. All right, and then
good card.
here's mine. Kind of overall look. I played Zoe Samaras, and she's an oldie but goodie. Not really much of an ability other than getting some extra resources, which helped. I might have forgot most of the time at the end, honestly. But
Yeah.
she's got a good card pool. I think getting 5 off class things is fun. She's got a lot of health and some good numbers and a really good signature card, I think. Zoe's Cross
Yeah.
is just it does a lot of work, I think, without you really thinking too much about it.
I was
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
really impressed with the empirical hypothesis as part of the splash.
hmm
I didn't expect it to draw that many cards, but it definitely did.
Yeah, I think one of the off-class cards you can take as a getting seeker access is something like Thorough Inquiry.
Yeah.
You'll see I took Bank Job just to be like, I think I might need money. And that other double card is kind of the same idea. It just fits in
Yeah.
anywhere. But the Empirical, as you'll see with the other cards here, kind of can have more, right? Draw.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
if you're drawing 5 cards off of Thorough Inquiry for 2 actions, I mean, that's good, right? But this was
Yeah.
probably drawing me for 1 action 4, maybe
Yeah.
5.
4 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially more with longer scenarios, but it kind of gets you in the place that you want to. The other reason why I picked that is this deck was heavily a tech deck for Feast of Hemlock Vale. We'll talk about more in a second, but most of this stuff was like, I know what Hemlock Vale cares about, and I want to counter that. Empirical does a lot of work here because when the game makes you discard cards, you can draw them back on your own terms without spending actions. Thorough Inquiry
Mm.
might overdraw you, and you don't want all the cards at once. You'd like to be able to get things back after you've lost things. Well, you've already played the card. I mean, the
That
Third Inquiry is still good as a recovery to some of those effects, but the fact that it sits in your hand until you play it means it's vulnerable to some of those encounter cards.
good point.
Okay, so that's just an overview here. It was mostly a butterfly swords deck, and that's a clear theme, I think, too. But we'll pick out some things that we really want to highlight. So we'll start with George. What'd you think? What
Yeah.
was your what was your uh, what was your play style like? What were the things you needed in play, and what worked out really well?
Yeah. So ultimately, I think that here's the interesting thing about George. Because I took forced learning, he was actually able to get by with very little. Um, Obviously, you still need to investigate, and so having things like nautical charts or Lawrence Carlisle is good to get your intellect up. But like because you're able to discard to forced learning, and because you're able to commit things from underneath you, you usually have a lot of things underneath you.
Hmm.
And so you're able to kind of get by without doing much. However, of course, once you get to the point where you have these three assets out, Gift of Nodens, Bound for the Horizon, and Artistic Inspiration, either one of them or indeed all three, then you're really able to go turbo, right? Because Gift of Nodens, it adds a discard to a commit. So basically, you get to put something underneath you for free,
Hmm.
redraw, and then commit something else from your discard pile. And then this, importantly, it can trigger during the Mythos phase, which again, you want to get as many activations of George in a round as you can. And it's once per phase.
Hmm.
So trying to get those in the weird points is really important. Bound for the Horizon obviously saves actions by not having to move, but because you're cycling the card instead of discarding it outright, you're effectively card neutral. And so it's basically just a free move every turn, which is really, really, really good.
Yep.
And again, it can trigger George during your turn, so the investigation phase. Finally, Artistic Inspiration, right? You can exhaust it during any free trigger window to discard it to replenish a thing. So this can be during any phase, including the enemy phase, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so it's a really, really easy way to discard cards to George's underneath zone. So I would
I
say that
feel like
these five. Go ahead.
I feel like we didn't see artistic inspiration a lot towards the end of the campaign. Did you just not see it from the deck, or did you say I don't need this right now?
Sometimes it was like, oh, I had to discard this to force learning, so it
Mm,
turned into a wild commit, which again is still pretty good.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I usually drew it late. If I drew it early, it'd be one of the first things I would play for sure. But most of the time I was drawing it late, and so I didn't have the time to play it. And also I already had enough
Hmm.
discarding that I didn't need the extra bits. Because honestly, the ability to get +1 or -1 is like, it's okay. It's a mini lucky. But also, I think we were succeeding by way too much for this to even matter.
Yeah.
It sometimes mattered, of course, but um,
Do
yeah,
you think that forced learning meant that it was harder to find like all of the pieces at once, and you sort of said, "Okay, this is what I have now. I'll play it."
a little bit. Yeah, I think that definitely the forced learning, its positives definitely outweigh that con.
Hmm.
But I agree that like you won't find all the pieces, but there's so many of the pieces that you'll find enough of them for you to go nuts anyway.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, the baseline is nautical charts, Lawrence Carlisle, definitely at level 0. And then the rest of the package, these are all just the best survivor and seeker skills that you can get, right? Like literally sharp vision plus contemplative plus deduction. Like they printed so many of these extra clue cards now that you are getting way too many clues that you can even afford. Um, the ability to have long shot and brute force. Long shot is really important because you can commit it to, for example, you at a connecting location, so I can actually be a little bit farther away.
Hmm.
Um, in order to do that. Same thing with contemplative, but that really, would come up. Obviously, brute force, I was able to. I think I committed to you like one time, but also George already has 3 fights, so getting up to 6 is actually not even a bad number.
Right.
Um, and then obviously, I think that these two cards, resourceful, unrelenting, are kind of just broken. Um, like the unrelenting was so key in George because there are points where you feel like, oh, I've committed a lot of things from underneath me, and I'm out of cards. You can feel completely kind of useless. Unrelenting can get you back there. I know, obviously, you mentioned the other skill that I can't remember the name of right now. Um, the last chance, is that what it's called?
Yes.
That's
Last chance
yeah.
3. Hmm.
Yeah. Last chance 3. I think that last chance 3 is also a good replacement for unrelenting just because it can draw so many cards, right?
Yep.
Um and then resourceful, obviously, it is nuts because you can get something back, and then you can use Gift of Nodens to discard a different card to get something else back and then put that underneath you. And then we want, there's other effects that can shuffle it into your deck, so you draw the resourceful again. It's kind of nuts.
It is.
Um,
Like, I feel like we saw these
speaking of,
cards over and over again.
yes,
And maybe
like
not
I
as much.
literally loop, I loop these cards over and over again, and if you can do that, then you're winning the game, right?
Yep.
The rest of the package is either cards that you want to discard, so things like Winging It, Glimmers of Hope, Fortuitous Discovery, Persistence, right? Or things that can easily discard for value. So Cult Invocation, Occult Lexicon for the blood rights to get damage out or just draws, or even money, right? And then Isle of Xanatos. This card actually did work in that second scenario, right?
Yep.
Or even because I was able to like cancel 6 damage with it. And also draw cards off of the canceling, right? So those are key pieces of the deck, but not as key, but they're really good ways for you to be like, okay, I can easily discard this to Forced Learning, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Or even you draw it earlier, you discard a different card to Forced Learning, you trigger your ability, then you go to hand size check and discard the bad ones that you want in your discard pile, right? And obviously we got to mention this, but I just got to mention this. So Gift of Nodens plus Winging It plus any survivor skill is stupid because you can resolve it so that the skill that you chose to commit with Gift of Nodens goes underneath your deck, and then when you resolve Winging It, it'll shuffle everything in. So the downside of it being on the bottom of your deck no longer is there.
Yeah, it's more likely to be drawn again. I mean, you already have so much draw, right? It's just not going to be to the end of the deck. It'll be somewhere in the middle. Crazy good.
And another version of that is Persistence, which I actually didn't realize until I just got it.
Did you? That's cool. I think you. Did you ever commit it?
I committed it once and shuffled. Yeah, I did shuffle actually something I put in the bottom. So that's cool.
Okay.
And then the rest of the deck is just good cards. So Lucky 3, Good Weather, Alter Fate.
Yeah. What'd you think of Good Weather? I think we saw it in one scenario, maybe.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing about Good Weather is that because you and I have exactly the wrong skills that we're good at,
yeah,
that there's no overlap here. So this is either just +2 for me or +2 for you.
Yeah.
I think in 4-player this would definitely be really good, but it also requires a lot of planning because I'd be like, does anyone want to use their book this round? I guess not. Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
but I think it was good in one, but I didn't see like a million copies of this or something every.
No. Like I definitely could have looped it potentially, but I just didn't bother to.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? You also have 35 other cards we didn't see.
I believe those are all other copies of
all these things.
Other cards. Yeah. Oh, Perceptions, I guess. There's Perception. That's about it. Obviously, the level 0 deck was very,
Oh, Granny.
There's a Granny War. I forgot Granny. Yeah, that's also true. So Granny kind of took the spot of Artistic Inspiration as well, because it does the same effect, albeit only when she fails.
That's true.
But
yeah, because you don't need the succeed by more, really. I mean, it wouldn't be bad, but
it can matter for things like Brute Force and Sharp Vision.
Oh, that's
right?
true. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that is a reason to keep it around.
But I feel like we saw a lot of Granny in the last 3 scenarios, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's just really good. So
yeah, it's weird though. Like in Feast of Hemlock Vale, there's 6 scenarios, so it feels like you get a slice of the deck. You don't get everything, right? You don't get like 8, the usual 8 that you have. All right, so I thought it was a great deck. I thought it was really fun to watch you go through, and I mean, I played him recently, so I kind of knew what to expect, but it felt really comfortable to just sort of watch you say, I can do whatever, and we'll figure it out. Getting the clues as fast as you did. There were some instances where I thought, man, are we hoes? Like, are we? But no, like the fact that your tempo was so consistent.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that it's fairly possible for you to get 4 clues per action, like on an action for some reason, like move, get 4 clues, move away. That's like so good, especially in 2-player.
Yeah. But even just like the amount of movement that you could get with, I mean, you had some story allies that helped too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Like he's just really, really strong.
He is really strong, and obviously I think that one of the key pieces of him is that, like many survivors, he turns the game's disadvantage into advantage every single time. One of the Mythos cards was like, oh, by the way, if you fail, you're going to discard a card. And I'm like, please let me discard more.
That's true. So I mean, we probably both, maybe you weren't thinking about it ahead of time, maybe you were, we're kind of checking hard against this campaign because Hemlock Vale really has a lot of, if you
It
fail,
does.
you discard a card at random often,
Yeah. Yep.
and then other things happen too, like the miasmatic shadows will engage you, so you have to figure out a way to make that not a problem. When I played
Yes.
Wendy in this campaign, it was terrible because it was just
Oh
like
gosh.
you
Your
heard,
hand's just always empty.
yeah, exactly, and that's
And then you
bad.
get
But
nuked for 5 horror.
yeah, but George, you get to replace the card.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
It's so much. Like literally it staples draw a card off of so many of the mythos treachery cards, which is like that's nuts.
Mhm. And even his weakness didn't seem to slow you down much.
No, and actually I think that's the key thing is that Cast Adrift, it hit like, it hit pretty hard. Like there was a turn where I lost 5 cards, but
Yeah.
I was able to rebuild really fast again because of unrelenting, because I have the forced learning discard every round. So like if you can just turbo things underneath you, then everything's fine.
hmm Yeah. And it's interesting. We talked about this a bit off camera, but like Fortuitous Discovery, I don't think you played it ever.
I've never played it once. It was just good to discard to hand size. That was it.
And Glimmer might be the same thing. I don't know if you ever brought them back.
No, but Glimmer of Hope at least has a wild icon, so you can commit it from underneath him.
That's
Right.
true. That's
Fortuitous
true.
Discovery does not have it has
Anything.
that problem. Right. Yeah.
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 So it's funny. Like you also probably never played the Occult Invocation, but it was a good
I
card to
played it.
have.
Did I play it once? No, I guess I didn't.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
played
so.
more of the occult lexicons,
Yeah.
Blood Rights, because that's like Tesla's. So
Right. Especially at the beginning of the campaign, which
yeah,
might be a good segue over to. Oh, and you like probably only once ever was able to.
yeah, it was in the last scenario.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So Zoe. Zoe is our fighter. And this was a very interesting time I had. The whole the whole time I was hoping to use Zoe's ability, get engaged with enemies, and a bunch of other things that stack with that.
Yep.
Notably, Butterfly Swords lets you do a bunch of different attacks. So the idea is like you use Dakota Garofalo, you engage an enemy, you get to do a bunch of attacks at a pretty high number because you attach reliable,
Yep.
maybe even attach a chant weapon, and now you're attacking at like 15 or something. And that's going to succeed by a million with Empirical Hypothesis. That's really good. Your Wolf Mask re-ups a little bit, but also maybe on one of these attacks, you get to use Zoe's Elder Sign.
Ah,
Maybe. And I will tell you,
maybe.
it happened one time.
Yeah.
The whole campaign. It should have happened more than that, but we actually didn't draw very many Elder Signs or auto fails the entire campaign, which is really weird. I didn't draw a single one for the first 3 scenarios.
An Elder Sign? No.
Elder Sign. Yeah,
No,
I
you
drew an
did
auto
not.
fail, but
Yeah.
anyway,
I think that the first autofill I drew, if I'm honest, was the last scenario. I can't even remember another one.
yeah, you didn't draw too many. I drew a bunch, but I mean, they weren't that bad. It was really just funny because I really wanted to get this Elder Sign going. And I've done this deck before in a standalone, and it was really good for that reason. And I wanted
Yeah.
to see if I could build that deck from the ground up and not just start with 29 XP. So that was kind of the concept. You'll also notice something else here that was of great frustration to my partner, which is there are 3 weapons in here plus
Yeah.
the grenades. Um,
Yeah.
yep. Um, and part of the reason I didn't was I just wanted all these other pieces. I didn't add anything else. I had I had, at the beginning I had just the 2 copies of the 45 Thompson,
Yeah.
and then 1 level 2 butterfly swords, and then I quickly upgraded one of them, added the other one pretty late, added the grenades, but that was it as far as weapons goes. So, why did I do this? 1, Feast of Hemlock Vale has 3 scenarios in which you can just find the weapon you want
Yeah.
and play it for like either no cost or some discount. So why bother putting in extra weapons when you can just find the one you want half the time? Well, the other half the time, might be a
We're
problem.
panicking. We're panicking. Panicking so hard. Twisted
Oh,
Hollow was a nightmare.
the Twisted Hollow was crazy. I was missing my Dakota Garofalo's in that scenario. The swords didn't come out until late. It was just a problem. But this is a weird campaign because do you judge the deck's performance based on the scenarios that you get a lot of goodies at the beginning,
Yeah.
or is it based on how you do in the night scenarios, which are, well, only half the campaign? Which you might just get lucky in the mulligan anyway. I just didn't.
Well, you got lucky in the mulligan with the last scenario,
I
right?
did. I had actually two
Yeah.
butterfly swords in that
Yeah.
opening hand. So, um, yeah, when I had all the pieces in play, which was not that hard to do once I found one card like the swords, because the reliable's fast and I had a lot of draw. Um, the deck did very, very well.
Yes.
When I didn't have that card in play, I like ran out of ammo on the thumbs, and I'm like, okay, now what?
Okay. Time for me to evade twice and just hope it works.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It was,
literally that 0 that I got an evade against the enemy saved us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, the second scenario or second night scenario, longest night, was also kind of stressful, but
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually it was okay. But
Yeah.
I think the swords are great cards. It's just I had to prepare for the worst, which I think whiffed one of the times. I upgraded to level 2, which I think was a pretty good card.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, I mean, this is the deck. It's just a lot of economy cards, some good skills, and I think it's worth talking about Dakota here too.
Dakota is nuts. I'm putting it out. She's my new Janae Beauregard.
Yeah. Okay. How come?
Okay, I'll be honest. She's not as good as Janae,
Okay.
but
Okay. Good.
I mean, tabooed maybe she is because Janae's 5 XP, right?
Now she's
Um,
5 XP. Yeah.
now she's 5, yeah. But there's just it's everything you want to be doing. Like you want free moves, you want free engages, you want to take the enemies off of your cloovers, you want to move to the enemy's location and just kill it immediately. You like willpower and combat. So
Hmm.
creatures and monsters, they give you bonus stuff. Uh, it's like I can't imagine how many actions you saved from Dakota alone. And there were moments where you were able to use her twice in a turn because of inspiring presence or whatever it's called.
Yeah. That
Uh,
was kind of fun, right?
like that's nuts.
I could have upgraded it to level 2. I think it was fine not to, but
Yeah, yeah,
that there were some fun scenarios where I think I moved twice, like going back and forth almost because of the elusive enemies.
yeah,
That was kind of cool. I really like playing that style because it
yeah.
feels it's not just like a flat out Pathfinder or shortcut where it's like I just move, right. And
Yeah,
even Bound for the Horizon I think is more interesting than those cards because you have to get some extra advantage with George with the discard. But this is like it makes you feel smart.
Also, I like obviously this is key tech for elusive because of the fact you can chase after them. Because
Hmm.
that's always the most annoying things about elusive is that they run away and then next turn they have hunters, so they'll come back and they hit you, and it's just annoying.
But that's
So,
why
like,
she's on the hunt, right? This is like what her text does.
yep,
It makes sense. It was so good. Like if we did not have her in the deck for the last 3 scenarios, for sure,
yeah.
longest night going forward, um, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done.
Also, I actually think that another key bit of her card is what's not on her card, and that is the words "during your turn." Because
Yeah.
shortcut says during your turn. Pathfinder is during your turn. Bound for the Horizon is during your turn. Dakota can do things in the Mythos phase. She can do things during the enemy phase.
Hmm.
That is stupid.
Yeah. And doesn't say non-elite.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, is this more than 3 XP in your mind now? I mean, it's specialist too.
It is specialist, right? And also the willpower and combat buff is conditional, right? It's
Hmm.
not always there. So you might not hit it during the Mythos phase, when you want the willpower, right?
Right.
Um, And honestly, her having 4 cost is real, 4 resource cost.
Hmm.
Um, like I could see her being tabooed to 4 XP or mutated to add during your turn. Like I think either one of those would make her definitely more fair. Um, as she is very good though, really, really good.
But this is kind of where I feel like the specialist cards should be, right? Because they're limited only to a few investigators. So, do we need the extra tax?
True. Yeah, and again, we talked about the specialist cards and how I think that they
Mhm.
are not what I think they should be. So maybe I'm evaluating that wrong, but and also like I off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what detective hunters and wayfarers are. Obviously, I know that Michael McGlynn is,
Yeah,
and
Hunter.
I'm planning to take him on that.
Yeah.
He's a hunter, yeah. Is Tony Morgan a hunter
Yep.
as well? Yeah, detective Roland Banks, I assume Joe Diamond.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean again, I think that well, maybe this is what I'll say. Now that they have this specialist things going on, at least for the next few years going into the current environment,
Hmm.
they'll have to think about adding Detective Hunter Wayfarer to people's traits because they're going to be like, is this going to be broken if this person can get Dakota Garofalo, right?
Right.
Um, so that's
But
kind of where my thoughts are.
I mean, I think this is. I feel like Zoe's kind of the primo spot just because of the engage effects too. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not bad anywhere else, clearly, but
yeah,
everything on this card is like, yes, Zoe wants this.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I feel like this was a very coherent deck. Um, it just was one that maybe I don't know, like I probably could have cut out something else, but it was one that was a bit fragile in the sense of if you don't find what you're looking for, then
whatever.
but it
Yeah.
was very powerful, and I felt like the enemies towards the end were handled in a way that I haven't played in a while, where I had like a really good like I don't think this is like the world's best fighter you've ever seen, but it was one that got the job done without well, okay, got the job done in a way that the scenarios made things difficult, and maybe the elusive part is part of that. A lot of aloof enemies as well, right?
Yeah.
So uh yeah, I felt like I could do 9 to 10 damage for each round if need be. Like enchant weapon with reliable um and Dakota, like we're working with huge numbers here, which was
Yeah.
also something important for the campaign.
And that's also a key reason why Butterfly Swords is so good is because it doesn't have ammo, so it's a reliable basically 3 damage per action for the most part.
Hmm.
Um so it's not like other big guns that will run out that you'll have to worry about them. And so you being able to save the other actions that you don't want it to take, the move actions, the engage actions, to be able to focus on Butterfly Swordsing a lot, it is part of the reason why she's so good. Is because normally if you only have one shot on your flamethrower left, right, it doesn't matter that you save the move actions and engage actions if you have no other fight actions to take.
That's
Um,
right.
so part of I think the good thing about this deck in particular is that it's well oiled because of the fact that you are maximally not doing the actions you don't want to take, and then maximally doing the actions you do want to take.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hmm. I had Hunter's armor with a bunch of stuff. I don't think I ever put damage or horror on it from a treachery, which sounds stupid, but there's only
Yeah.
6 scenarios. I put it on there at the end and just didn't happen.
Yep.
And Hardboiled, I think, is an interesting new card, which made sense with the butterfly swords. It's not great. It has its moments, but take the initiative probably just saves me more in the long run. But there were occasionally some turns where I was like, okay, I think I can sequence things where this is going to get me over the top on a last action or do something else, like take a treachery test or something. I think it's fine. I don't think it's a bad card.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, one last thing. We didn't talk about Whispers of Doom. Fun card.
Fun
I
card. You worry of the deal. 5, 6? What was it?
6.
6 damage with it one time. That's better than Spectral Racer, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do wish I had something in here to funnel resources into, like the physical training or something. When I didn't have like the guts to commit.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, because
because
you were running around with a ton of money.
at,
That's
by
how
the
Zoe usually goes.
yeah, by the end of the scenario, after I played things, I had tons of money, and yeah, the bank jobs are maybe a little bit overkill, but when you need to set up, you
Yeah.
you want to make sure you can afford stuff. But yeah, that would have been nice to have that. Whew. Um, I had a great time playing this deck though. Other than the parts where I felt like I was a miserable failure, but we got
Yeah.
there though, and that was
I will say also, you were able to definitely handle Unspeakable Oath Bloodthirst, even though Butterfly Swords makes it extremely awkward to handle it. So you did well on that.
That's right. Oh, that was a
Yeah.
fun. I mean, it seems like oh
A
well, you
little
got the one
little
that
mini game.
is good for your deck, but it was fun to deal with this, to just squeeze
Yeah.
out all the XP I could. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. Anything you learned from my deck and vice versa? Something you hadn't seen before? I feel like we
Well,
kind of talked about it a
maybe
bit
not
already.
maybe not learn, but more about like always thinking about uh deck consistency, I guess. Um and like you're right. Hemlock Vale is very weird in the fact that it has these three player preludes where you kind of just can do whatever you want. Um and so it's a question that I have to think about because normally I don't run less than 6 weapons in a deck. Um
Even in two player?
no, never,
Uh,
absolutely never. Like I've never like because even like I I don't know. I'm very into consistency because
yeah.
things will run out, things will go wrong, so you better have backups. Even if it's just 2 weapons that are just okay. Um, but anyway, that's kind of my ethos. Obviously, seeing this deck, when it shines, it shines. But I don't know. I would have added 2 more weapons and just
Oh,
been
I
okay with
know.
that.
It's like, why didn't I put a machete in or something, right? At level
Yeah,
0?
yeah. I mean, again, that's the reason why I like Branded Cthulhu so much is because it's a guardian card that is
Mhm.
a weapon but doesn't take a hand slot, and so it's able to fill that backup weapon without interrupting. Oh, I need to play the butterfly swords now. Um,
That's right.
but anyway, that's just
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree, like, probably playing it again and being more serious,
yeah,
especially with a higher player count, but, I get it for two-player
yeah.
also. But that's
And also, again, it's if this was not in Hemlock Vale, if we were playing a different campaign, then I
yeah.
think that you probably would have gone down that
Yeah,
route. So
exactly.
yeah,
It's always tough though as a fighter because I mean I'm trying to do something interesting and they require some combo pieces or it kind of begs for combo pieces, right? Like the hard
right,
boileds could have been weapons instead of just
yeah,
this, but
yeah,
you know, wouldn't it be cool to have a card at level 0, right? That can fill some of
because
the like the combo oriented stuff with the butterfly swords because then you can either knock down a door or not that there are locked doors in this campaign but do something as a last action after you've already taken 4 fights or something.
yeah, that's fair.
But is it worth it at the expense of weapons? The reliable I started with and I think that's like a key piece, but is it worth having the I don't know. What else would I have taken out? The Trusted. So I had 2 copies of Trusted. So I don't know. It's just I have a hard time
I
finding
mean,
room for things that are uh, like too redundant. And
yeah,
ultimately,
I
I
mean
went
that's
with the
that's
grenades because I felt like that's also doesn't take up a slot and it's a weapon, so I could find it with repair at the worst.
that's also a thing. That's why these deck builder games are so interesting is because of the fact that you have to kind of glue together the set of cards that can work off of each other, but also need to come up in the right sequence sometimes. And if you don't draw some of them, then it feels like parts of the pieces are missing, and so you have to build in redundancy to be like, if parts of the pieces are missing, I'm okay with that still.
Hmm.
That's just why this game is so cool. So
Yeah,
it's yeah,
there was one scenario where both copies of Dakota, I think that was Twisted Hollow, were at the bottom of the deck. It's like, well,
yeah, yeah,
what am I going to do to find these? Like, do you put in
yep,
cards to find all the other ones? Well, that's hard to do if they start having different traits and all the
yep,
rest. It is a tricky thing to do. Maybe stick to the plan, goes in earlier to make the mulligan
right,
better.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's tough when you build around 5 XP weapons. On your end, right? It's interesting because you have 50 cards, so you answer the question of consistency differently. That you don't
Yep,
need all of them. In fact, you
yeah,
just need
like
one at a time, really.
yeah, like this package, I just need one of them. This package, I need one or two of them. This
Hmm.
package, one or two of them, and I will see those within the first 2 to 3 turns. So like everything is basically all redundancy for the most part. Redundancy and flexibility, where you're
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, I have the choice between playing Lawrence Carlisle or Bound for the Horizon. What do I want to do? Well, if we need to move right now, Bound for the Horizon is better. But
Mhm.
Lawrence Carlisle can get me more money. Maybe I don't. Maybe I have other assets I want to play. So we'll play him first. So, lots of redundancy in here. But I think that's probably just how I deck build, right? Where it's like I have 3 copies of the same card. These are the same cards, right? I have 6 copies of the same card. I have 4 copies of the same card here. So
Yeah, that's true. But that's also because survivors work differently where they can use these cards more than once because of the
yeah,
recursion part. So
yeah,
it's not that you need all these things to work together. You can just use them and they themselves are kind of a little mini engine.
yeah. And
Um,
again, part of George is that I'm cycling through my deck so fast that I will be able to see these pieces when I need to. Usually,
right. If you had been playing, though, I don't know, Ursula or something, I might have played things
mm,
differently too,
yeah,
because George is not totally helpless, right? You've got
yeah,
your blood rights, the long shot, brute force. You have a 3. You mentioned that already.
yeah,
You can evade probably. You have the luckies, right? You can do
yep,
anything with lucky in your hand. So I never felt like we were in total trouble. It was just more of a when there's a big enemy. Okay, do they actually get defeated, or are we just gonna leave or something?
right, yeah. Good point.
And that's the I think that the weakness of this deck, which is originally built for a 4-player deck or standalone, so that's part of why it was a little bit
Yeah,
like kind of funky. Um, is that I felt like at the beginning of the campaign it was like I don't know, but getting a 6+ health enemy at the end of the campaign, really the last half, was like no problem.
yeah,
We got this. Like, give me
yep,
multiple 6, 5 health enemies. I've been scared of those enemies in Hemlock Vale before, but
yeah,
and then 10 health enemies that showed up too. Um,
yep,
and once we were in those last couple scenarios where the cards came out and I was drawing a lot, I wasn't afraid of any enemy. It was great.
yep. Again, that's why these melee cards are high level melee cards are so good, is because they don't have ammo. So
Yep.
go nuts.
Yep. Um, yeah. Last sort of thing. This could have been a Cyclopean hammer and not needed anything
Right.
else.
Yeah, I mean that. Anything could have been a cyclopedia. You could have had this and butterfly swords and a bandolier to have both of them, so you can exhaust the cyclopean hammer.
Ooh.
Um,
No, that costs too many more resources. It's all of
too
2
many,
more resources. Would have been
too
really
more
good in Zoe though,
resources.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like if
No,
we're
I mean
just
that's
swinging at 8.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think like Butterfly Swords is just a more fair version of that card, and this is actually
Pretty
quite good.
much. Yes. No, I agree. That it's the fair cyclopean hammer, and in this case, you were able to maximize on it, so it was good.
Except for the Elder Signs. So
I
what
will
we
say there is merit to having bandolier if you didn't have hunter's armor, because then you could have both butterfly swords to be able to exhaust them both if you need to. That is a reason to play it, at least. But
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
And then it gives you +1
willpower.
+1 willpower for your enchant
Yep.
weapon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, there we go. Last thing I was going to say here is that if you really want the Elder Sign thing to work, because I've played that deck before, is you build around the Blessing of Isis instead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But there is no room in this deck
No,
for that, so you can't use the swords. You have to do
you
something
could have
else.
taken force loading as well.
Oh, I could have. I could have also taken Underworld Support and just did 1 copy of everything here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Would that have helped? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
It was fun though. I think we had a great time, and I'm very happy with our where things ended up.
Yep.
If you haven't watched the whole thing, feel free to watch from the beginning and see how we piloted them, because it was fun. It was a great time. So thank you, Superfang, for joining me, and we'll play again sometime on the channel.
It was a great time. Thank you as always.
All right, take care.